Welcome to the HCI family of podcasts. We're your source for personal, professional, and organizational growth and development. We share our own original research, explore industry trends, and interview executives and thought leaders from across the globe. Join us for practitioner-oriented content around all things leadership, HR, talent management, organizational development, and change management. Maximize your personal and organizational potential with the HCI family of podcasts. David Wentworth, welcome to the conversation today.
Very happy to be here, John. Thanks for having me.
It is a pleasure to be with you. You're joining us from Florida. I'm south of Salt Lake City in Utah. And today we're going to be talking about the disconnect between employers and their frontline workforce. You know, I think employers, particularly organizational leaders, senior management, C-suite executives, have often the best of intentions. They're strategic and they want to do right by their people. I truly believe that. Yet there often is this disconnect. And the question is why? Why does this disconnect exist? And what can we do about it to eliminate it, to bridge that gap? You know, because it's the frontline workers that are literally the front line where the rubber meets the road. They're connecting with the customers, with the supply chain. They're the ones that are bringing the products and services to the market. How do we bridge that gap? That's really what we're going to be exploring together today. As we get started, I wanted to share David's bio with everybody. David Wentworth is Vice President of Learning and Talent Development Platform Evangelist at Skooks. Wentworth brings more than a decade of knowledge to the company, including a deep understanding of the workplace technology industry with an emphasis on learning and development. Prior to Skooks, Wentworth served as Principal Learning and Development Analyst at Brandon Hall Group and was Senior Research Analyst with Institute for Corporate Productivity, I4CP. David, anything you would like to add by way of your background or personal context before we dive on in?
I think that pretty much covers it. I've been here at Skooks for a couple of years now, and as the platform evangelist, I'm just here to talk about sort of big picture learning technology issues. So
awesome. So exactly, big picture learning technology stuff, and we want to connect that to this disconnect, the employer and frontline workforce. So paint a picture for us, first of all, why you feel like that disconnect exists, and then we can connect that to this L&D platform and how we can utilize technology to help bridge it.
Sure. I mean, there clearly is some level of disconnect. I wouldn't say that they're completely disconnected, right? So it's a matter of degrees. And where that disconnect exists, I don't think it's a pernicious thing. It's not as though leadership at these organizations are like, we're going to do it this way and I don't care about anything else. But I think there's a lot of stuff at play, like for larger organizations that have been doing what they do for a long time. What tends to happen in any part of the business, including learning, processes get a little calcified and strategies sort of get stagnant, and they just don't adapt to, say, the world around them, the different types of employees that they now have that they probably maybe didn't have 5-10 years ago. And it's really hard to break those. And so the disconnect is sort of built in institutionally in a lot of cases. There's also a thing where a lot of times the people who are in these decision-making roles at the organization, there's a chance that they came up through the ranks at whatever. And again, we are right now talking specifically about frontline, but a lot of this stuff is applicable, across industries. But in those types of organizations, a lot of folks in those decision-making roles maybe don't have that day-to-day experience that their learners are having. So it's hard to sort of put yourself in the shoes, right? As you're making your plans and your strategies, and you're putting things together. I think there's a lot of that. And, look, then it's just the nature of the business. Everything is fast, quick, get it going. It's really hard to sort of pump the brakes, step back and sort of look at things holistically and try to make any big changes like that. So there's a lot of things at play, but like I said, I don't think it's a case of anybody or any organization not wanting to address it. It's just really figuring out how to do it in a way that, isn't disruptive and helps the business.
Yeah. And I agree. I don't think it's pernicious. usually. I suppose it could be, and perhaps at
I
times
hope
it
not.
is, but
Yeah.
usually I don't think it is. I don't think most leaders get up in the morning, with their like the Burns, from The Simpsons, kind of like waggly fingers, thinking, how am I going to, hurt my people or take advantage of my people today, kind of thing.
Yes.
Um,
Your
people.
learning strategy is release the hounds.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like people want to do right by their people
Yeah.
usually. And so there's a variety of reasons. Usually there's systems reasons, why some of these gaps are in place. And it's no one person, there's just all these processes, and like you said, it gets calcified, and whatever. So there's all these different reasons, and the bottom line is we want to break down, if there's a problem with the system, let's identify it, let's break it down, let's try to get things working, because we want our people, especially our frontline people who are interfacing with the customers, we want them to have what they need. We want them to be able to put their best foot forward. We want them to have great customer relations, provide a great customer experience, et cetera, right? And one of the ways we do that is through having a really great opportunity for them to learn, to grow through our learning and development programs. And traditionally that happened through face-to-face, classroom-based learning, traditional training programs. You gather everyone into a conference room, you pull up a PowerPoint, you give them a 2-hour training on customer service or whatever, you train them on a new product, whatever, right? And that's how it was happening. Things have sure changed a lot over the last 20 years. Walk us through what that has looked like a little bit for you in the space, as you've been, very heavily involved.
This is the thing is that's a great example of the disconnect, right? It's a small section of a larger disconnect, but it's this idea of how do we deliver learning? And we saw
Mm,
in this study that we did with Lighthouse Research that talked to frontline employers, so companies that are restaurants, hospitality, retail, manufacturing, things like that, and then also talked to their employees and asked them very similar questions to see where everybody landed. And one of the things that stuck out, along the lines of what you're talking about here is like 91% of the employees, right? The people said, we want stuff on a mobile device, right? Because
uh-huh, uh-huh.
think of these environments. Most of these people are deskless, right? They're on a shop floor. They're behind a desk, or I mean, a counter on the floor. They're not sitting at a computer in a cubicle somewhere. And so they want the things that they need on a mobile device. Now, when you ask the employers about how they prefer to deliver learning, the biggest chunk of that the highest priority was in class courses, in class and
Interesting.
like
Yeah.
on demand courses, and mobile was there, but it was a much lower priority. Like I think only 14% of companies said it was a priority. Not that they don't do it, but they don't prioritize it. Only about 14% said they prioritize the mobile link. So right away, right out of the gate, right, you've got this audience of people who were like, here's what I need, and they're not getting it. And the other disconnect along those lines is the employees say, I just don't get, like, you're giving me these skills and this knowledge, but then I have no opportunity to try that, to see if that works, to internalize it, to make it make sense for me, to practice, literally to practice. And that's something they desperately need, and they just don't get it. And I understand why they don't get it. You think of that environment, very fast paced. We got to get things going. This is a limited time offer. We need people to be ready to do it and address the customer needs right away. So here's the training, go do it. But they're creating an environment where people feel unsure about what they're supposed to do. Do I know everything I need to know? And then so you're creating kind of a very wonky interaction with the customers, and you're not really getting the most out of whatever training it is that you develop and deployed. So, and then the other thing we found is that when we asked, like, okay, what are some of the things that are leading to the challenges that you're seeing? And employers said that a big issue was technology, right? Because there's they feel like, well, either we don't have the right technology or our employees won't use or can't use the kinds of technology that would change things. Where the flip side was the employees said they had no issue with technology. They're like, whatever it is, give it to me. I can deal with it. Let's
Hmm.
try something new. And so again, it goes back to what we were saying at the beginning, sort of this, it's hard to break out of, well, this is the way we've always done it. Everything's set up to build and deliver this kind of learning. So it's very hard to break out of that and try some new technologies that might meet the needs better.
Interesting. So you feel like um, employers generally are behind the curve in terms of technology adoption. They feel like their people aren't ready for it. Employees are saying, though, no, bring it on.
Right.
We're ready for it. We can utilize the new technologies. We need more flexibility, and we need more real world experiential learning. We need more practice. We need more hands on. That's kind of
Yep.
what I'm hearing you say.
For sure. And again, this isn't, I don't want to generalize. It isn't like every single company you're going to walk into, that's the
Sure,
case,
sure.
right? But
Yeah.
when companies say that they're struggling with things like time to productivity, new hire retention, performance in general, when you start to dig under what, okay, we're having these issues, you start to dig under that, you start to see those are the organizations that are challenged by how they train and develop their people.
So how do you utilize your platform to try to meet those gaps, and how do you approach management where they have those types of concerns, where they want more face-to-face classroom training, they're resistant to the technology. How do you approach them, say with these research findings, and say, no, we really do need to meet your people where they're at, and give them more flexibility, etc.
Yeah. I mean, the first thing for me is to always come at it with, look, we're not here to tell you to blow up the classroom and never do it again, right? That's
Yeah.
clearly not the solution. Classroom training is good and necessary and can be done really, really well. I mean, I'm
Yep.
not going to say that it has been done really well a lot, but it can be. And in order to do it really well, you have to supplement it and complement it with a lot of other types of stuff, right? So we're pulling out of the classroom the stuff that doesn't need to be in there. People don't need to sit in a chair and listen to someone for 40 minutes, an hour, whatever it is, because you could do that anytime. You could do that asynchronously. You don't need to waste people's time. So if you are going to have people in person, how do we make the most of that? And then do the other stuff via technology. And then also use the technology to revisit and reinforce the stuff that you did in the classroom rather than, here's everything you need to know to do the job for the rest of the time that you're here. Good luck. Right. It's, we constantly need to give people reinforcement, find out, this person might be having a challenge with this particular element. This person might be challenged by something else, so that we're giving those people what they need rather than just dump everything on everyone, because just no one has the time for it. And so from, the perspective of the Skooks platform, I mean, in conjunction with the study we did with Lighthouse, we then went and did our ROI study with a bunch of our clients. We asked them, hey, look, we don't want to, we want to know how you like our platform. That's great and everything. We want to know that you love what we do for you. But we want to know, are you actually seeing real business results of, say, people are able to do the job, get up to speed faster. We're saving time here. We're seeing performance improvements. And we saw a lot of really interesting results from that. And so we have clients that use the technology, let's say they work in a fast casual restaurant environment. And typically those frontline workers tend to skew a little bit younger. And they created these learning experiences, which are very much like a TikTok experience, right? On the phone, vertical, quick hits, give me what I need. And the learners love it. And they are, whenever they roll out like limited time offers, they've got, as a restaurant, there are always new items, and they roll it out with this, and people get on it, and they get, there's little gamification involved, like how quickly can you get through things, and how it show that you've understand what the product is, and all these things. And they use the platform to do that. They can deliver right to the mobile phones. We've seen clients of ours use QR codes around the environment so that an employee can use their phone, scan the QR code to learn how this particular piece of machinery works, or if it's a menu item, I can watch a video of how it's made right then and there while I'm in the environment. So to me, that's what I like about what we do is we provide this breadth of opportunity, like whatever's going to work for your audience. And even within an organization, you're going to have audiences that have different needs. We're going to set you up so that you can give them what you need, whether you center everything you do around this very traditional classroom experience. We can make that successful too. Or let's say we're doing this on the fly, all virtual, all on demand. You can do that too.
Yeah. Well, I think the on-demand piece and the personalized component, like
Mm-hmm.
really just meeting people where they're at, recognizing, like if I get 30 people together in a classroom training environment, the chances of all 30 of those people needing the exact same thing is so minuscule. Like
Mm-hmm.
they're all going to need totally different stuff,
Yeah.
probably. And so inevitably you're just going to be wasting lots of people's time. All of that is opportunity cost. All of that is lost productivity. And not to mention, it's just boring for people. It's lost motivation. It's like there's all these direct costs, but there's indirect costs too.
Oh yeah.
When you're having training that's not effective, right?
Oh yeah.
And so anytime it's flexible, anytime it's personalized, anytime where it's like just in time learning that's impactful, it's just powerful, and it's going to have a lot more direct positive impact on performance, on motivation, on a lot of the types of ROI outcomes that
Yeah.
organizations are going to want to see. That's going to show positive impact for the organization, both in terms of bottom line, but also for the employees. Like just for me, getting up in the morning, wanting to like maximize my potential, wanting to become the best version of myself that I can be, the best employee I can be, like all those intrinsic things, that I want to become, all of that also gets maximized when I can have a personalized learning experience
Mm-hmm.
that usually doesn't happen, when I'm just kind of getting lumped in with everybody in a training and like a kind of generic training environment, right?
Right. Yeah. I don't, I use this analogy, knowing that I am not referring to people who work for any organization as kindergartners, right? But I think
Yeah, yeah.
there's an allegory here where I have children, and when they were little and they went to kindergarten, and I know kindergarten teachers, you realize all these kids come into this room on day one, and some of those kids have been to pre-K. So they've already spent a year or so learning, doing the kinds of things that pre-K does. Then you've got kids who have been in a daycare, a little bit different environment, but some learning, but also the socialization. Then you've got kids who've never left home,
Yeah.
and they're all in the same room on day one. And I think, some organizations, some L&D leaders could learn a lot from kindergarten teachers. How do I get everyone level set without just saying, well, we're going to do, this base thing because we need to, I don't want to call it lowest common denominator as referring to people, but you know what I mean? Like, how do we just, and then
That's
you,
kind
yeah,
of like
you,
what it is though. Yeah.
right. And then you lose everybody in between. And when you put this under the microscope of these environments, like these retail restaurant environments, right? I think, and this gets into the biggest impact about the disconnect that I'll get into is that, um, you know, getting people up to speed and getting them to stay, because turnover in these environments is by definition high compared
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
other industries. It's like other industries see the turnover in restaurants and retail and their heads explode. We're talking, 150% in a year, something like that. And so anything that these companies can do to reduce turnover is huge. Any like small percentage chip away at that is a huge impact on the bottom line. So what we saw in the two different studies that I've been referring to is that in the first one, the Lighthouse study, the employees that said, hey, listen, I feel like I'm not getting what I need. I don't feel like I'm adequately trained. I'm not sure how to do the job. Those people were way more likely to say that they're going to look for another job soon than the people that said, the company's giving me what I need. I feel like I know how to do my job. Right. So right then and there, people are going to stay longer. Now, are they going to stay for their entire lives? Probably not. That's okay too. But these companies realize the longer they stay, the better it is. The more we get from them, the more we give to them. And it costs a lot to replace people. So the more we can do the things that you're talking about, that personalize, give them what they need, make it frictionless, they're more likely to stick around. And then we've also heard from a lot of our clients that we create this environment of development. We're right out of the gate from day one. It's not only are we going to give you what you need, but we're going to go beyond that. If you want, we'll help you develop other skills. There's all these career paths within our organization, or you could just develop skills that you want as a person, because we know you're going to go somewhere at some point, and we want you to be prepared for that, wherever that is. And then you've got all of a sudden these brand ambassadors out in the world who are like, hey, I worked at this place for a few years. It was amazing. They did this, this, and this, and so it sounds just kind of touchy feely and a nice story, but it's a really big impact when you start to scale it. So it's really interesting to see the differences between the companies who maybe aren't hitting what their frontline employees need, and then how that affects turnover and time to productivity versus the ones that are doing it the right way.
David, I note the time. I probably need to let you go here in a few minutes. The time has just flown by. As we start to wrap up, though, I wanted to give you some time to share with the audience how they can connect with you, find out more about your work, your team, and then wrap things up for us and give us the final word on the topic for today.
Oh, sure. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, so you can connect with me there. Just David Wentworth, and I'm with Skooks. Pretty easy to find. Love connecting with people on there. A lot of stuff to share. I do host a podcast called They Learn, You Win, and that's on all the podcast platforms, YouTube, wherever you want to find it. I will be at DevLearn in Las Vegas. So we'll have a big booth presence there. And so if anybody wants to catch up with me live and in person, that would be great as well. And for me, just the final note on the topic is just companies have to start to realize if they just invest a little bit more time, money, energy into these frontline employees in those types of environments, the payoffs are huge. We find time and time again that it's worth it. So I encourage folks to look at, these studies, any other studies that are out there that are showing you what can be done when you start to do things a different way.
Yeah. Well said. David, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure. I encourage the audience to reach out, to get connected, find out more about what David and his team can do for you. Check out his podcast, catch up with him at that conference. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe, that you can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the podcast. We hope you stay healthy and safe, and please join us again soon.